At Trex, we know there's a place for wood in your backyard. We recommend the fire pit. But when it comes down to choosing the right material for your next deck, look no further than the superior beauty and durability of the world's #1 premium decking brand. Trex delivers the look of wood without all of the work and the worry, and it's made from 95% recycled materials, which makes it the right choice for your backyard 100% of the time. To learn how to make Trex your next deck, visit Trex.com to order samples.
With how do we beat the Warriors?
I love the mindset. You're obsessed with us? That's fine. Be careful what you wish for.
Triggers a deep 2 and hits. Durant has 30. Curry on the other end. Buries a triple. Beats Thompson. Gets off a 3 and knocks it home. 4, 3, 2, 1. Took 7 games, but the defending champion, Golden State Warriors, still best in the West.
Cleveland is lurking in the finals again. Are you ready for LeBron?
The Stanley Cup Finals started last night, but all eyes were on the NBA, where we're reminded that the NBA is basically the sports league equivalent of the Fast and the Furious. You know how the movie's going to start. You know how the movie's going to end. The only reason to watch is because you want to watch predictable things blow up in the middle and have a little bit of fun. That's where we are, because we got the exact ending that everybody's used to seeing. We get Warriors-Cavs 4. Yet again, we're going to see the same two teams in the finals. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz, sitting in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. This hour of Golic and Wingo brought to you by La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book at LQ.com and win at business.
So while we're going to get into that, and you're right, we got the same outcome, but it was a little more nerve-wracking for those teams than had been in the past. We just finished a discussion of the hot dog eating contest, Nathan's hot dog eating contest, July 4th. That is the Super Bowl of Major League Eating records and such. And Joey Chestnut has won, the last 10 or 11? And before that, it was Kobayashi that won 6 previous to that. Kobayashi has been banned from that. They want to get him back into that. They want the rivalry to continue. So we started talking about foods, and we threw out at Golic and Wingo, if you could pick your own food on what you would do well in a eating contest, what food would it be? So, Jason, let's start with you. What would you pick?
I changed my answer. I originally said cake, but then I realized I learned in the donut eating debacle last year against Junior that dense foods aren't a good idea. So I instead am going to go crab meat, because I spent a few years in high school in Maryland, and I would always take the crab, and I don't really like to eat as I go. I like to stack it. So I will break all the crabs that are in front of me, and I will stack the meat into a mountain, and then I will shovel the mountain of meat. So I feel like I'm a little bit life prepared for that.
Will you go lobster instead?
Well, I mean, I'd prefer crab, but maybe I'll go lobster.
The record for Maine lobster is 11.3 pounds in 12 minutes.
Man, the cost of admission to that one's got to be high, because I'm just thinking about the market price for lobster when you walk in. You're like, hey, guys, I'm going to eat 12 pounds. It's
an expensive record.
Frugal.
How about you, Mike?
You know what? I was going to go with French fries, which the record for is 4.6 pounds in how long, guys? 6 minutes?
6 minutes.
4.6 pounds in 6 minutes. Changing it up. Looking on this list. I had no idea what an apple skiver was until I went and looked it up. It's a pancake ball. It's a pancake batter formed into a ball. The record, which, by the way, is 107 apple skivers in 8 minutes. Wow. So
I didn't even think you can top that?
Pancake balls. It's incredible. I love pancakes.
Yeah,
I love pancakes. I love stuff in ball form. I'm going to go pancake balls.
I'm showing my idiocy here. I'm actually getting the calculator out to try and do this math. That would be 8 minutes and 107, right? So you've got to average what? 74?
You know what? Basically, this lends itself well, because I've been prepping for this eating munchkins outside the Golic and Wingo studio for months now.
You need 14 a minute. That's what you need. 14 a minute.
I would have to go with donuts. And right now, Eric Badlands Booker has that record of 49 glazed donuts in 8 minutes. He did that in 2002. I don't think it's been beaten at this point. Let's go around the room. Devin, what food would you eat if you could be in a contest?
Give me pancakes.
Pancakes.
World record's 118 in 8 minutes, but they're silver dollar pancakes, which changes everything.
It does change everything.
God.
You're right. Okay.
Butter on those, or just dry?
You know how they do with the hot dog buns? They stick them in water. Okay. I feel like,
Same
make
thing.
them soft. Just stick it in.
Cliff, where are you going?
Listen, I'm going chicken wings, and I don't care how crazy that record is. I'm breaking it no matter what.
Chicken wings.
I'm taking down whoever has it.
Chicken wings is Joey Chestnut is 7.61 pounds of buffalo chicken wings in 12 minutes.
Sorry, Joey. I got your record now.
All right.
Golic, just a quick update on your glazed donuts.
Yeah.
That record is also now Joey Chestnut's 55.
Oh, 55. Okay,
Yeah.
so we went up from
55 glazed donuts in how long?
8 minutes. I believe it's 8 minutes.
55 donuts?
Yeah, 55.
Like real donuts?
Yeah, I did 38 mini donuts in about a minute and a half when Stugatz challenged me, but these are real regular-sized glazed donuts.
It's a regulation donut?
Still try, yeah.
And your boy's going for the world record, whatever it is, Taco Bell soft tacos. Let's do this.
Oh, you? Okay. So, soft taco. What is the record for that? Do we have that? Tacos.
Soft tacos.
53.
53?
Yep.
We call
10
that
minutes.
book
it. Chestnut, by the way, has the record.
Joey
Big surprise.
Chestnut, 10 minutes, 53 soft tacos.
We call that the crack the porcelain challenge.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Mike A, did Mike A chime in on what his food's going to be?
Meatballs.
Meatballs. Oh, my God. He said that with kind of a vengeance, didn't he?
I'd say with conviction.
Oh, my God.
With hunger.
Meatballs, I have, looks like 10 pounds, 3 ounces in 12 minutes. 10 pounds of meatballs.
That's as of today. Give me a few hours.
Okay.
Book it.
Brett, how about you?
I just wanted to chime in. Joey Chestnut holds 44 of these records.
Of course he does.
Which is quite a few.
Yes,
I would go with lobster rolls.
Lobster rolls.
Rolls, so you want to add the bread. I just want the meat. I don't want the bread.
Lobster rolls
41.
is Kobayashi, 41 lobster rolls in 10 minutes.
You think Joey Chestnut just wears a diaper?
Wow.
Does anybody know Joey Chestnut's net worth that he's made off of this?
We could find that out.
Off of eating?
Somebody check that out.
Oh, by the way, we got to get Jerry. Jerry's in the room now.
Jerry, what food would, if you could be in a food eating contest, what food would it be?
Mac and cheese.
Oh. Mac and cheese.
Boy, that seems dense. That seems really good.
Calorie rich.
Seems like that's a mistake about a third of the way through, Jerry.
I don't see mac and cheese on here.
That's because even eaters are like,
We'll have to
it's too much.
Dig for the record of that. All right, so that's what we're looking for at Golic and Wingo. If you could pick a food that you think you could compete, what food would that be? Wow.
By the way, we're minutes away from Rick DiPietro from ESPN New York 98.7, former Islanders goalie, going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on some of the fun and controversy around last night's Stanley Cup Final Game 1. But before we do that, let's get into a little bit of what's trending. Golden State Warriors erased a 15-point deficit to beat the Rockets 101-92 in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals.
You know, it's one of those where you just, and I saw you tweet about it, Mike, you wait till the third quarter. Don't rest on anything until you get through the third quarter. And yet again, the Rockets and most teams that Golden State played couldn't get through the third quarter. They held an 11-point lead at halftime. They were down 7 going into the fourth quarter. A hot fourth quarter for Golden State. Now, Houston did get it to within 6 in the fourth quarter. You thought they were going to make that run, but couldn't get over the hump of that, and Golden State moves on.
This is where I think pedigree comes into play. We saw it play out like this with Cleveland in their series and their Game 7 win against the Boston Celtics, and we saw it here, an understanding of timing, of conserving energy, and knowing when they needed to strike, when they needed to go out there and perform. Golden State, been on this stage plenty of times before, back in a 4th straight finals against the Cavaliers now, and knew when they needed to expend energy. That third quarter has been their bread and butter, and so they made it work for them again.
I am stunned to look back on a game where the Rockets were so dominant on the offensive glass, particularly, and in the beginning portions of the game, the Rockets looked like they had more fire. They had more. They came out more charged, and they were flat out playing a better basketball game. I'm stunned at the way it ended versus the way it began.
You know, and a lot of people said, why in the third quarter, why did Houston go away from what was working for them? It's a fair question because each game is you know, an individual game, but we know they live off the threes, and they were trying, and shoot or shoot. That's what they say, right? And they attempted 44 three-pointers, and as we said, would you ever go into it thinking you hit a cold spell? Okay, everybody does, but 0 for 27? 0 for 27 in threes, so you know they're not disheartened by that. They're going to keep shooting them, especially if they have open ones.
I wonder, and I wish I could find who tweeted this and give them credit for it, but they mentioned in talking to an analytics person around the league, they said they wonder if the Rockets' idea of pressing the math on three-pointers accounts for fatigue, because we heard a number of guys address fatigue in this game. That pace was unsustainable in the first half, and you wonder if settling for those jump shots was a product of coming out and being a little, not just physically, but emotionally drained after what was a hyper-intense first half.
Well, Golden State gets the win, and that means the The Cavs and Golden State Warriors will meet in the NBA Finals for the fourth straight season. It's the first time in Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, or NHL history that two teams will meet for the championship in 4 straight seasons.
So last year, Golden State was up 3-0 in this one and ended up going 5 games. Warriors swept the series from the Cavs this year, but again, the Cavaliers had a brand new team starting in January that is still feeling out. We don't know about Kevin Love. We don't know about Andre Iguodala as far as Iguodala with the knee and Love with the concussion, whether they're going to be back or not. The heavy favorite in Golden State for this series. I think the only reason I would go with Cleveland would be my heart. It certainly wouldn't be my head. I don't think they have a chance to win this one. But just to see what LeBron can do in this series, of which he's having a monster year and a monster playoffs, will be interesting. But he doesn't have Kyrie, a guy like Kyrie, to back him up.
LeBron had Kyrie Irving last year in the finals, to your point. The final series that they lost 4-1 to this same Warriors team. LeBron averaged 33.7 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, 10 assists per game, and 42.4 minutes a night. Shot 56% from the field, 39% from three, and they still almost got swept.
Yeah, here's your book it. You guys like the book it, right? If this series goes 5 games at all, they should just throw a parade in Cleveland for what LeBron's accomplished, because the Golden State's that much better.
Well, they are, and it'll just be, again, who from Cleveland steps up. It'll be different guys in different games. Green coming in and playing, obviously, for Love. You have with Kyle Korver. What does he do? Does J.R. Smith actually hit shots? So you just don't know. Somebody has to. You just don't know who it's going to be game in and game out.
But I'll make the argument that if whoever that night Cleveland's third best player is, if he plays out of his mind, the third best player for the Golden State Warriors, if he plays terrible, still advantage Golden State. Like, that's just how much better they are than everybody, especially their top 4 or 5 guys.
You just see to me the difference defensively. Golden State and Houston operated at such a different pace, closing out to shooters, flying around on defense, that this Cleveland team is capable of.
Yeah, it's going to be a series to watch. I don't know if it's going to be a good series to watch. Speaking of good things to watch, Major League Baseball, Justin Verlander allowed 1 earned run in 6 2/3 innings pitched in a 5-1 Houston Astros win over the New York Yankees.
Again, he's dominated the Yankees since he's gone to the Astros, giving up just 2 runs in just under 31 innings in 4 starts against the Yankees. To me, listen, Verlander's been great. That staff has been great. They're the defending World Series champs. They felt they were dissed a little bit before the season. Everybody started looking at the Yankees when they got Stanton and the talent they had there. I'll say this again, that the 3 of the top 4 ERAs in all of baseball belong to Astros. Verlander is first with 111. Charlie Morton is third. Garrett Cole is fourth. And I'll say it again to you Met fans out there. Jacob deGrom is second at 152. Met fans have to be looking at that rotation in Houston and saying, that was supposed to be us. We had all the stars. That was supposed to be our staff, and their staff completely fell apart, and Verlander has just solidified this staff to try and go back-to-back World Series.
It is a devastating force, and we talk about that Yankees matchup specifically. Aaron Judge going against Verlander in his career, 0 for 13 with 7 strikeouts. Gary Sanchez in his career, 2 of 13, 4 strikeouts, hitting a combined .077 against Justin Verlander. So, talk about having their number. And again, he was the guy. Justin Verlander was the one that publicly bristled at that notion. So he's gone out and backed it up in a big way.
That gets you caught up on what's trending. And we didn't even get into where my eyeballs were last night, because you guys know I'm a hockey fanatic. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was going to have the NHL Stanley Cup Final on the big screen, and loved every second of what I saw. To help us break down some of that, you're listening to Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio. Jason Fitz in for Trey, Mike Golic Sr., Mike Golic Jr. with me. We're going to go to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, where Rick DiPietro of Humpty and Canty, which follows us on ESPN New York 98.7, joins us. Rick, thanks for some time. I want to ask you sort of a in the weeds question about hockey in the beginning of this, because the ice looked really rough early in the game, and the guys seemed to have a problem getting footing, and passing wasn't crisp. When you're a goalie, does that change the way you approach things?
It does a little bit, yeah. You can tell with the ice, especially with the temperature. You see, the pregame ceremony is ridiculous. You saw how long that took, and then on top of that, the place is just packed. So with all that body heat, the ice isn't going to be very good, and you could tell last night the puck was bouncing all over the place. For me, I would always have conversations with the defensemen as much as you could make them pass, especially if it was a 2-on-1. If you could try to make them actually make a pass, you knew that was going to be hard. The puck wasn't going to lay flat, and would give you, more of a chance as a goalie to kind of get over and have a chance to make a save on a backdoor play or whatever it is. So that would always change my mind as far as, what you would try to make the forwards do, make them deke rather than shoot. But a sloppy game. I really think that Washington had a good opportunity last night to take game one. But you know what? You got to give Vegas credit, man. Their fourth line stepped up.
Go a little more into that, because I saw them last night bringing out like ice and filling in spots and using like a fire extinguisher. It was really a wild thing seeing it, because I hadn't seen that before. They talked about the temperature of the ice being 22 degrees, but they said the next game it might be 100 degrees outside. So go a little more in depth to that effect of the ice with the heat and the humidity, how that can affect the game.
Well, it gets soft, and what you see is they're trying to repair is you start taking big, huge divots. You're talking about 200-pound men with really sharp skates. I mean, blades on their feet that are cutting through that ice. So the longer the periods go on, you get about 10 minutes into the period, all of a sudden now you got big, huge chunks taken out of the ice. It affects your footing. It definitely slows the puck down. It's tough. It's tough to make tape passes. That's when the definition of keep it simple, stupid starts to really come into play. Just pucks in, pucks out. But they try to get those all the extra ice that they have, from the Zamboni, and when they clear the ice, they bring that on, and then they'll use the fire extinguishers to kind of freeze it and patch it up as much as they can, as best as they can. But I think this time of year, you expect that the ice, especially if you're going to be playing in somewhere like Las Vegas, is not going to be very good.
Talking to Rick DiPietro of Humpty and Canny on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So from in the weeds to into the headlines we go, and the hit by Tom Wilson is one of the big headlines coming off of last night. You saw the hit. Are you expecting any sort of action from the league as a result of this?
No, I don't think there's going to be a suspension. I don't think it was a clean hit. I think it was a dirty hit. He knew exactly what he was doing. This is something that Tom Wilson does quite a bit of. I mean, he broke someone's jaw, was suspended for 3 games. Luckily for Vegas, I mean, Marchessault is probably, outside of Marc-Andre Fleury, one of their most important players. They lose him for the series. It's a whole different series. So I said this morning on Get Up. I look at Tom Wilson kind of like I look at Vontaze Burfict. Really talented player, but sometimes doesn't make great decisions. But that's why you love him as your teammate. I mean, he's willing to do those dirty, borderline. He plays on an edge, and sometimes he steps over the edge. And I think that was the case last night. I just think, luckily for Vegas, Marchessault went in, got tested out, and it doesn't look like he's going to miss any time.
So, Rick, that being said, one of the things about playoff hockey is that these things carry over. But if you're playing for Vegas, retribution could cost you a penalty, which could put you in a bad situation in the game. If you're playing for Vegas, do you just have to let this go?
Yeah, you let it go for now. I think you take a number. I said this before the series. I was looking forward to this series because of, and you saw him last night score another goal, was Ryan Reeves, and then they have Derek Englund. So I think at some point, you take the number and you realize if the chance comes up where I can do it clean and I can get Tom Wilson with a clean hit, I'm going to do that. But I think one of the best things that Vegas did last night was stay out of the penalty box. I mean, you're talking about a Washington Capitals team that was going at close to 30% of the power play. They only had one last night. They hit a post. So you're not going to do anything stupid, especially at this time of the year. I think the best retribution is winning the Stanley Cup. But if there's a chance game gets out of hand a little bit, or if he's going to actually be willing to drop the gloves, which against Ryan Reeves, I would probably say I wouldn't recommend it, but it's definitely something that those guys will be talking about and thinking about.
Rick DiPietro joining us, Humpty and Canty, ESPN 98.7 FM in New York, former first overall selection by the Islanders back in 2000. So high-scoring game 1, 10 goals. Game 2, what is your expectation?
I think you're going to see a much more fundamentally sound game. I think it was nerves, like you guys mentioned earlier in the interview, the ice. It was a sloppy game. I don't think that Alexander Ovechkin was great. For me, Oshie and John Carlson were probably their best players. That was Marc-Andre Fleury's probably worst game of the playoffs, but you kind of expect that going into game 1. I think you'll see a tighter game in game 2, probably not as much scoring. You probably won't see as many mistakes. If you're Washington, I think you look at game 1 kind of as a missed opportunity. You hope to get a couple more power plays going in game 2, but I think it's going to be a competitive series. I do. I just think that when it all said and done, and I think Fitz can attest to this just because of his ties to Nashville, once you saw Winnipeg did what it did against Nashville, I thought that Winnipeg was the best team in the West, and then Vegas cuts right through Winnipeg. So I think right now Vegas, just as far as the best team left in the playoffs, they're probably, in my opinion, the best team as far as the series is concerned.
It's great stuff. We heard you feel like you could beat anyone in a food competition. Any particular go-to food, Rick?
Any particular go-to food, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, pancakes, pizza. I once ate a 5-pound Italian sandwich in 20 minutes, so I'm ready. Whoever wants to challenge me, I'm ready.
Pucks.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about. Follow him on Twitter at HDumpty39. Can we figure out some sort of contest here? I just want to take on an NHLer and something.
Well, that's amazing, though. How about, would you do mayonnaise, bowls of mayonnaise?
Bowls, yeah, whatever it is. I'll slap Fitz on anything, whatever you want.
That's fantastic. Rick, man, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on with us, my friend.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, guys.
Wow, he's very confident.
Well,
in his eating ability.
He's seen me. That's probably fair. Rick DiPietro, you can hear him on Humpty and Canty in ESPN New York at 98.7. Great stuff from him. The ice conversation is actually one I've been a part of before because Nashville years ago really struggled. And what people don't realize is when you have heat and humidity, it really affects the ice. We have to remember this is the first time Vegas has had to deal with whatever warmth is going to be from Vegas in the playoffs. So as much as you have a system built for cooling the arena and controlling condensation, and it should control the ice, you still don't know until you're there. So I think this is going to be a problem in Vegas throughout the duration of the playoffs. So it's something to keep an eye on because if you're looking at the Capitals and you're like, oh my God, look at Ovechkin and what they can do. They've got a lot of guys that can shoot, but the puck's got to sit down on their stick to do that.
That puck was bouncing. It was bouncing all over the place last night. And they said it's going to be, I think, around 100 degrees for game 2 of what effect that's going to have. What I've learned is the perfect ice temperature is 22 degrees, I believe, but with the humidity and stuff, how quickly, as Rick said, it goes to a little bit of bad footing.
If all that puck bouncing led to a game with 10 goals, I think that the casual fan tuning in for the NHL Stanley Cup Final will be A-okay with
casual
that.
fan be good, goalies will not.
That is 100% true. Also, I feel for the people in the arena that are in there in a freezing cold arena, and then you walk out onto the strip in Vegas. They must have like Parker rentals in there or something.
At Trex, we know there's a place for wood in your backyard. We recommend the fire pit. But when it comes down to choosing the right material for your next deck, look no further than the superior beauty and durability of the world's #1 premium decking brand. Trex delivers the look of wood without all of the work and the worry, and it's made from 95% recycled materials, which makes it the right choice for your backyard 100% of the time. To learn how to make Trex your next deck, visit Trex.com to order samples.
I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. Mike Golic Jr. earlier couldn't manage to read a sponsor on SportsCenter, but apparently he doesn't like my timing when I do the SportsCenter reads.
I'm just saying you take a lot of long gaps in the middle. You leave a lot of interpretation of when you're actually going to be done. Just button it up.
I take the gap in between to allow people to understand, he's moving to a new sport. It's calculated.
It's a gap, not a pregnant pause.
You guys are a bickering couple. Holy
You did this, Mike. You did this. Oh, man. This is what happens when we have 2 days together in a row. So we're breaking down all things from last night in the NBA, obviously, and what it means moving forward. And to do that, we're going to go to ESPN NBA analyst Doris Burke on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Doris, thanks for some time. The Warriors beat the Rockets coming back from a first half deficit. What's happening in the third quarter that nobody can figure out how to stop?
Well, they have a gear that no other team in the league can get to, and more talent than anybody else with those three guys and their shooting ability. And it's very difficult to me to sustain defensive effort over 48 minutes against these guys. And I wondered, with their season-long lack of collective experience together, right? There were so many times where, the three main guys were not in the rotation, and with their habits, they weren't as sharp defensively. Would it take its toll? But to me, the difference between them and everybody else is they have a gear that they can get to offensively, and it's why I think they'll beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not sure Cleveland can score enough, and LeBron's not enough. I can't believe that's coming out of my mouth after what I just watched, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, at some point, it's kind of like last year, when Cleveland was down, 3-0 before they won a game, losing in 5 last year. As far as what Golden State did to the positive, talk about Houston to the other side. we know their game is threes, but they were also playing in the paint and attacking extremely well. Did they get away from that too much?
You know what? I think when you start to miss that many threes in a row, to me, why not put it on the deck and get maybe 2 or 3 in the paint? They don't have an in-between game, right? Like, they so de-emphasize those shots that they only have 2 options, and that's get to the rack or shoot threes. And you know what's interesting to me, Mike, about the Golden State Warriors, and I had them early in the year, and I'm just sort of looking at some numbers, and they'll take that in-between shot, and because Kevin Durant is the master of it. Klay Thompson is the master of it. So I don't know that I completely agree that the only shots you should take in basketball are threes or layups. Obviously, they're high-value shots. I think what it comes down to is who is taking those mid-range shots. Because when you look at the effective field goal percentage of guys like Klay and Kevin Durant, their effective field goal percentage from 2, I feel pretty good about those 2 guys taking those shots. So, and listen, we can argue all day whether Houston has the right formula. The reality is you didn't see Chris Paul, who had almost willed Houston to 2 straight wins. And I do believe, he could have made a difference in those moments in the third period. It pains me. Chris Paul seems to be a guy that has a polarizing effect on people. You love him or you hate him. What I love about him is his competitive spirit, and he made some shots in that series that willed his team to wins, and I would have loved to have seen him in last night's game, that's for sure.
Talking to ESPN NBA analyst Doris Burke on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And Doris, you mentioned Chris Paul, who we had to watch and was very noticeably frustrated on the sideline last night and is now going to be a free agent this summer, is eligible for that Supermax. Do you expect to see him back with this Houston Rockets team next year taking another run at this?
I do, and he had told me late in the season, probably April, we were talking about Coach D'Antoni, and he said essentially, I told him, where he goes, I go. It surprised me a little bit. It was an answer to a question when we were, I feel like we were getting some sound from him for the game. But anyway, I remember distinctly that answer and thinking to myself, wow, he is loving playing for Coach D'Antoni. So, to me, I'd be surprised unless he and LeBron decide they're going somewhere else together. I would expect him back in Houston. Yes.
Doris, one of the things that it's hard for me to wrap my head around moving forward is what the future of all this looks like, because the Rockets were the great hope of competitive balance in the NBA. If the Warriors are playing the way the Warriors can play, are they just unbeatable for the next couple of years?
That's a great question. I all year I was picking up what the Rockets were putting down. And they took them to 7 games and were missing a piece. And look at the Boston Celtics a year from now. Boston, we all thought Boston's championship window was a year from now, not this year. And now with the accelerated growth that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Terry Rozier all were able to get. Now, who knows what Danny Ainge does? Does he stand pat, or maybe does he try to get a little bit more experience with one of those young pieces? I don't know. He's got too many assets and some decisions and plenty of flexibility. But the Boston Celtics, with what they return, to me, are going to be formidable because, and you guys were running that piece about coming out of break about, Brad Stevens essentially, or who got Coach of the Year votes and Brad not getting one.
Yeah.
Right. So, listen, I just think the Boston Celtics will be formidable next year. Do I think Golden State is unbeatable? No, I do not. I think things are too fragile in the NBA. I thought they showed too many things in the regular season, the boredom, some injury tendencies. It's such an unpredictable thing. Obviously if they stay pat and they keep those 3 guys, they are a championship caliber team. I just think other teams are doing things to catch up.
Talking to Doris Burke, our ESPN NBA analyst, Kirk Gowdy, Media Award winner this year, played basketball at Providence. So before we look to next year, we're doing a series, and not many people think Cleveland's going to win this, but I'm putting it on you. Cleveland's going to win this series. How are they going to do it?
An incredible stretch of shot making that we didn't see and haven't seen all year from J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver. Incredible defensive effort consistently from Tristan Thompson. And LeBron James being the absolute, I can't curse on your radio program, but that is one bad man, really. Like, I don't know where any of you stand. I'm not a big comparison person. He's the best player I've ever seen, and it's not close. And I'm not talking about the comparison to Michael Jordan. Right. I'm talking about in my time in the NBA. I literally, guys, I can't put into words the things I've watched over the course of 10 years in terms of his greatness. And have to be the king, and he'll have to do it for a long stretch of time, and he's got to get some shot making from people around him, and I don't think they can do it, to be perfectly honest.
Guys, follow her on Twitter at HeyDB. Doris, always love your work on the broadcast. You do spectacular work.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
for having me.
Come on. And that's sort of the piece that I'm going to keep wrapping my head around, guys, just trying to figure out what the future looks like. Because I was all in on somebody beat the Warriors so that we have some proof of concept. But really what it comes down to is unless they're bored, I don't know that they're beatable.
Well, I mean, listen, you have to say it. This is where the Chris Paul argument comes into play is didn't have him for the last 2 games. They went to a game 7 and didn't have him. So if you can stand pat, again, they have $76 million committed to Harden, Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, and PJ Tucker. If they do the max deal, it would start at $30 million next year for CP3. Capella's up for an extension, would start at about $25 million a year. So can they keep this team together? But if you could, would that not be what you would do, thinking we were right there anyway, had the most wins this year, and boy, if we were just healthy at the end, which can be a big if, we were right there to go to the finals, of which they would have been favored.
Would have been interesting. Would have been interesting, could have been interesting, should have been interesting. I think this is the last year we get this combination of teams at the top, though. I think between the ground that's been made up between Golden State and some of the other elites in the NBA and what could be in the future for LeBron James and this team, I think this is going to be our last round of Cavs Warriors. So take it in and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think in 3 years, when you think the Celtics and the 76ers and those teams were desperate to have ascend, if that ascension continues, it could be good.
Real quick, do you guys both think LeBron is gone?
Yes.
Yes.
To create some other team? I mean,
to create the possibility of upward mobility, because there's no next level up with this Cleveland team.
So they're hitting the glass ceiling of NBA Finals.
Well, I mean, they're hitting the ceiling of what the salary cap league allows you to do.
Right.
Coming up, if you thought Wilt Chamberlain had some unattainable records, wait until you hear what's next. Let's get to the important tweet we've got here. Scott says, if Fitz doesn't make it on radio, at least he can sub for the Mickey Mouse voice.
That's true.
I'm all in. Like, does that add value to a contract?
You got that laugh.
Jason Fitz, Mickey Mouse. Ho ho. Wonder what Greg Cody thinks of this. We didn't steal this from the Dan Le Batard show too, did we? Ho ho. Ho ho. Eisner, SportsCenter is brought to you by Discover Card. Oh. Become a new card member, ho-ho! And Discover Card will match all the cash back you've earned dollar for dollar at the end of the first year. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply, ho!
Oh, yeah.
Wow, you do get up there in that laugh.
It is Tuesday, too, so Greg's going to know. Word's going to get back to him.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Presented by Progressive Insurance. Look, if Le Batard thinks they have a copyright on the number of people that tell me my high voice sounds like Mickey Mouse, that's been years.
Been a while, huh?
Yeah.
No, but Greg Cody had the market cornered for a long time on the Mickey Mouse impression. Greg Cody in on Tuesdays every day, writer for the Miami Herald and the Dan Le Batard show. Great Mickey Mouse impression. Think he just got bumped.
It's pretty good right there. We're going to get to our own impression of Brett. Actually, he's going to do himself, right?
Yeah, Brett's going to.
Because Brett wants to get on air.
More than anything in the world.
Is that what's about to happen?
Yeah, well, it's going to happen, but real quick, again, the odds for the finals coming up, minus 1,000. Anybody thinking about going with Cleveland in this one, minus 1,000 means you would have to spend $1,000, make a bet to win 100. It's the largest favorite entering the NBA Finals over the last 15 years. You do have to go back to the Lakers and Pistons in 2004. It was minus 700. Lakers were favored. Pistons won that series in 5, though. So it can happen. We just don't think it's going to happen.
The funny thing is, I don't hate the bet. I mean, it seems like an easy way to make $100. You just got to put $1,000
down for it, huh?
It seems like an easy way to make $100.
Seems perfectly reasonable. There's going to be, I bet, some interesting prop bets in this one, because the one thing we do know is it's going to require whatever the Cavaliers accomplish, Herculean efforts from LeBron James, and I'm sure some interesting thoughts on who of the ancillary characters will step up and when.
Can we also just make sure we have a little perspective going into the finals that we already got close conference finals for whatever that's worth. That's what the NBA really sold us from the get-go. They never sold us we were going to get a competitive final. They sold us competitive conference finals. We got that.
We flirted with this last season, and I'm very interested if we're talking about prop bets, things on the side. Finals MVP. Last year, a lot of people wanted to give that to LeBron James. Right. Averaged a triple-double over the course of the finals. Was much more efficient than that title that the Warriors won when it was no Kevin Love, no Kyrie Irving. Right. A lot of people flirted with that last year. This Golden State team, while they've been great, it's lacked a marquee performance from one guy. Last night, you had a couple of them really step up. But I wonder if this could be a year where Golden State, just sheer force of volume with this team, wins it all. But we could get enough out of LeBron James, who's already got that momentum built up through the playoffs to maybe steal the finals MVP in a losing effort.
Be interesting.
If you ask me, the NBA championship unattainable for LeBron this year, which brings us to, Brett, you've got some unattainable food records for us, right?
Yeah, we were looking at the records, and I listed out the 3 most unattainable and the 3 most attainable.
See, this again based off of Kobayashi. Can they get him back in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest where Joey Chestnut has really had no competition? Joey Chestnut wants Kobayashi to unblock him, get him back following on social media, and these two get competition going. So we were looking at all these major league eating records, and you have attainable and unattainable.
I do. First, an honorable mention to the hot dog eating contest, which is in the 97-degree heat and 15 pounds off.
It's crazy.
Okay. Number 3. Boysenberry pie. 14.5 pounds in 8 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Joey Chestnut.
I take it these are the unattainable ones?
These are the unattainable ones.
Well, because
Boysenberry?
Yeah.
Pie's
that
already
sounds like the real-life version of Snosberry.
Pie's already gross, so don't give me boysenberry
14
pie.
pounds, 8 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Spaghetti and red sauce, 10 pounds in 8 minutes, Matt Stoney.
Number 2.
Now, we just had that guy that tweeted, said he would like to get into the spaghetti and meat sauce. 10 pounds.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That's a lot in your gut.
I do love the meat sauce is a nice natural lubricant. In all honesty, the acidity, it's the same going down as it is coming up. So if you have an unfortunate reversal, you're in good shape. It's just going to burn a little bit.
You are the youngest old man I know. What's the number one?
Number 1.
All right, this one was truly revolting when I read it. 47 dozen Acme oysters, which is 564 oysters in 8 minutes.
That, to me,
Sonia Thomas.
I want to see this happen.
564 oysters?
I will not be around you after you have that.
And listen, to me, I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry if you're eating. It's like eating snot. All right? I mean, I just don't like oysters.
I imagine this. You ever see when they're removing snow from those stadiums like Green Bay and they have that big slide where they send all the snow down? That's what I just imagine. You sitting at the bottom of that and just a tidal wave of oysters coming to your
Do you
gullet.
like oysters, Jason?
No, and that many of them, I'm not hugging either of you if you have that many oysters afterwards. I'm just making sure. No.
Those are the unattainable. So we have attainable, though, Brett still has to get to.
Yes.
Right? Okay, we'll get that. We'll get to the 3 most attainable foods as we continue these food challenges. Plus, one of the best athletes of our generation is back. We'll tell you about it next. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio.
At Trex, we know there's a place for wood in your backyard. We recommend the fire pit. But when it comes down to choosing the right material for your next deck, look no further than the superior beauty and durability of the world's #1 premium decking brand. Trex delivers the look of wood without all of the work and the worry, and it's made from 95% recycled materials, which makes it the right choice for your backyard 100% of the time. To learn how to make Trex your next deck, visit Trex.com to order samples.
What a night to be a sports fan. We get an NBA Game 7. We get an NHL Game 1 in the Stanley Cup Final. It's a perfect night. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic Jr.
What a great night it was. I mean, with the hockey game starting an hour before the basketball game. I loved, by the way, the show in Vegas. It was a show in Vegas. I read so many tweets about people who didn't like it. I'm like, it's Vegas, man. I mean, that's what you do in Vegas. I was completely bought into it, but I loved how the staggered start it was, because I know a lot of people are like, why are you scheduling game 1 here? And, you possibility of game 7, the schedules. But I'm glad at how they started. Got a chance to get a good chunk of the hockey in before you had to start doing, the favorite channel, the last channel thing. But it was fun to do.
I determined last night it's going to cost me a bunch of money because I've now decided I need 2 large TVs in my apartment. Instead of a TV and a laptop, I need 2 large TVs.
Big multi-screen night last night. Had the opening episode of The Bachelorette going on too last night. Couple of former football players. Mike Renner, Notre Dame grad, over at Pro Football Focus, the best hair and analytics, going at it last night alongside the NHL and NBA playoffs. Big night all around.
Big
sports.
Night.
God. Let's get to what's trending. The Golden State Warriors erased a 15-point deficit to beat the Houston Rockets 101-92 in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals.
All right, so I'm not going to lie. I got caught up in this. Wow, Houston may do it. When I saw Klay Thompson walk off the court in the first quarter with still 7-some minutes to go with 3 fouls, I thought, okay, this could be an issue if he's out for the rest of the half. When I saw the Houston Rockets just destroying Golden State in the paint, just getting offensive rebound after offensive rebound, just out hustling them, getting buckets, getting a lead. And then I read your tweet, Mike. I read your tweet that basically said, you know what? I'll believe it all if they get through the third quarter. And then the third quarter happened.
It was interesting in a headline because we went into this thinking James Harden, this is going to be a defining game one way or another. He'll shrink like last year. He'll rise to the occasion with Chris Paul out. And instead it was somewhere in the middle. 32 points, still abysmal, 2 of 13 from beyond the arc shooting. Got into the paint, had a couple of interesting no calls, but overall, this isn't something that really moved the needle with James Harden. He held serve, and for us, it's just sort of meh.
I love the fact that we've stayed away from the referee conversation, but there were some no calls in there.
2 back-to-back or 3-pointers for him where he got fouled. They didn't get called,
That's reputation, by the way. People being a little bit sick of what James Harden's been dealing out from beyond the 3-point arc. Draws the most 3-point fouls of any player in the league.
Ultimately, the Warriors did what the Warriors do. They made the switch in the second half and won Game 7 in Houston. Make the Switch is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Mike, you mentioned it early. Before the NBA game started, we all got treated, to the beginning at least, of the Vegas Golden Knights, who defeated the Washington Capitals 6-4 to take a 1-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup Final.
First game in Stanley Cup Finals history that featured 4 lead changes. Most goals scored in Game 1 of a Cup Final since 2010. There were 10 goals scored last night. There were 11 back in 2010 when Chicago beat Philadelphia 6-5. 20 different players had a point, 10 on each team. Back and forth game, exciting game, except if you were a goalie. Puck bouncing all over the place. They were fixing the ice multiple times there. For Game 2, they said it's supposed to be 100 degrees. We'll see what effect it has on the ice. And then we'll see if Tom Wilson will be able to have an effect on the game, where he had the hit on Marchessault, and he ended up getting an interference penalty, not a major penalty, but he's got a reputation, so is Wilson going to miss some time? Marchessault, it seems like he's going to be back. He had to leave the ice. He came back and played again, so he seems like he's going to be fine. But other than the goalies in this one, what a very exciting game.
The NHL won last night in a big way because they created urgency. They made me feel like at any time, if I was flipping channels to those other games, I was watching on Twitter with everyone else, experiencing it together, and every time I flipped away from that hockey game, I felt like I was missing something, and I was going back, and that's the best outcome you could have asked for coming off of Game 1.
100% too. You also have to think the display we've talked about as the game started, the sort of the show that Vegas puts on. A hockey guy may not love it. Non-hockey guy loves it 100%. That's good for the league. That's exactly what you want.
And here's
Vegas.
why, because you know what? Hockey guy is not turning it off, is not turning the game off. They're going to watch the hockey. So that was but again, that's what Vegas does. They do it before all their games, but not everybody gets to see it because not everybody's watching Golden Knight hockey.
You had that pregame. You had intensity on the ice. You had Little John being interviewed as one of the prominent fans of that franchise. broad reach for that game last night.
And you have Vegas outlawing capital letters because of the Washington Capitals.
Get them gone.
How great is that?
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. It's going to make grammatical nightmares for people, but it's still incredible. And of course, speaking of comebacks, Serena Williams faces Kristina Pliskova in her first match of the French Open today.
All right, so we're three guys sitting here doing the show, and we're going to talk about something we really can't comment on, and that's pregnancy. 496 days off for Serena Williams, and due to that time off, she is now ranked 451st in the world. There's been 3 women ranked outside the top 100 win a major since the rankings were introduced in 1975. The most recent, Kim Clijsters, who won the U.S. Open in 2009 when she was unranked after, you guessed it, giving birth to her first child the previous year. Serena Williams needs one more major to match Margaret Court on the all-time women's major singles title list. Court won the last 3 major titles of her career after, you guessed it, giving birth to her first child. So in something we are going to have a difficult time commenting about, one thing I think we can all agree on, Serena's going to win some more majors.
Serena unseeded going into this. Imagine that draw. You come into the tournament, you're thinking, I'm going to get some unseeded scrub. And you get Serena Williams, now endowed with mom strength. We hear all the time about dad strength, but Serena coming into this with mom strength, which we've heard can lift up cars and boulders, infinitely better than dad strength.
I'm really just imagining Kristina Pliskova coming in, like just walking in with her stuff and then turning around saying, nope, picking her stuff up, walking back out. I'm
Thanks
out.
for that.
Hard pass.
Yeah,
wow.
That gets you caught up on what's trending. You're listening to Golic and Wingo. Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic Jr. We're presented by Body Armor. It's time to ditch your outdated sports drink and switch to Body Armor sports drink with natural flavors and sweeteners and no colors from artificial sources. Body Armor is the more natural, better sports drink. Speaking of sports drinks, we're going to get back to we had a heated conversation earlier about the NFL. We're going to get back to it in a minute, but first we cut Brett off on attainable food records.
Right, so basically this is off of the fact that Kobayashi, Major League Eating, were trying to get him, sending a petition, trying to get him back into the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, where he won 6 in a row. But since then, he's been banned from that contest. Joey Chestnut has won, I believe, 10 in a row, and 10 of the last 11, and he has a record of 70 hot dogs, or in the 10-minute time range.
72.
And 72, I'm sorry. And he wants Kobayashi to unblock him on social media and a petition to get him back in. So we've been talking about Major League Eating food records that are going on right now.
And it's a big deal. You said he's won 10 of the last 11. He leads the series against Kobayashi 10-6. So if Kobayashi doesn't get back in the game now, he's going to have a hard time catching up.
So now we
get it. Catching.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. I see what you did there.
I think he's never going to catch up would have worked better than catching up.
You guys are both wieners. So Brett gave us the 3 most unattainable food records, and now he's going to give us records because we've asked you out there at Golic and Wingo, if you could pick any food where you think you could compete, what would it be? And now Brett has 3 that he thinks are attainable.
Number 3.
So this one is, it's taste dependent. You could get yourself maybe a miracle fruit and change your taste buds over so it flips the taste. That's another conversation. But Maui onions, 8.5 ounces in 1 minute.
What is it? Is a Maui onion different from a normal onion?
A Maui onion is a little less intense than a normal onion.
Because I saw Guillermo from the Levitard show eat an onion and vomit on air, so I'm assuming that this could be a comparable result if we're not careful.
8.5 ounces
8.5 ounces doesn't sound like a lot.
It's 3 medium-sized onions in a minute.
That's a lot. Okay, 3 medium-sized.
It's a lot of onion, man.
Plus, in only 1 minute, and that's Eric Badlands Booker too. That's a bad man.
I wonder in that situation. Wow, I wonder if you could take it and maybe blend it up into some sort of a mush.
No, you're not allowed to do that.
I don't know, man.
Why? If you can soak a bun, you can't blend an onion.
No, you can't blend an onion.
On stage.
Why? Well, I mean, but you can bring a water bottle to soak the buns.
There's a lot of layers to this one.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Number 2.
Number 2 is another gross one. Butter. 7 quarter-pound sticks in 5 minutes.
My sister, when we were kids, used to go to restaurants, the little butter packets? She used to take a knife and just scoop the butter out and eat it straight.
Yeah, she did.
Absolute savage.
She ate straight butter packets.
She doesn't do that anymore.
No.
I know I have to make that disclaimer now or I'm going to get yelled at.
7 quarter-pound sticks in 5 minutes.
Can I melt it and drink it?
No! Will you stop trying to change the rules?
I mean, again, I'm going to come back to I could take the bun.
So if you can hack some butter, I'm with you on attainable.
Again, it's not that much in terms of volume. We need to get out of the volume game.
Volume is going to kill a lot of people. I'm with you.
Yeah, but what's the spread on this one?
Oh my God.
I'm on fire.
Number 1.
All right, this one seems like it just hasn't been done in a long time, and I think there's a genuine shot without any loopholes. Sliced ham, 2 pounds, 10 ounces in 5 minutes. This is doable.
2 pounds of ham?
Almost 3 pounds, 2.5.
In 5 minutes.
That's a lot of ham.
Holiday spiral sliced ham. I love that spiraled ham, that honey glazed ham. Love it. Absolutely love it. Eating for the meal, and then later you have it for leftover. You have sandwiches.
Do we have a thickness on the cut? Does it say thick, thinly sliced?
It's spiral slice, so I imagine it's kind of that,
it's that medium thick,
quarter-inch slices.
Please don't ask if you can blend it up, Jason. Okay?
Well, I mean, it seems fair if I can dip
I'm
the bun.
with you. 2 pounds, 10 ounces, 5 minutes. It does have to be the lower volume. That doesn't seem like a lot, I guess, until you're holding 2 pounds of ham in your hand.
Hey, do that tomorrow. Come in here and pig out.
Y'all can take the ham challenge. I'm out on that.
All right, I think those were all somewhat attainable. I'll give you that. I like that.
Wow. Okay. You can get to us at Golic and Wingo. Let us know.
What food? What's your food out there that you think you could have a good shot at least, being competitive? You're not going to beat these competitive eaters, but can you be competitive against them?
I don't know. I think that if we trained hard, we could.
I lost one of the bets with Greeny in the NCAA tournament, and it was I had to eat against professional eaters, and Crazy Legs Conti came in, Eater X came in, and another, I believe, and I'd eat boneless chicken wings against them. We did it in like 2 minutes. And I got in double digits, but these guys were in the 30s and 40s. It was ridiculous.
But they trained for it,
no,
Mike.
I know,
you got to train.
But this is the thing that Fitz is doing is he's discounting natural talent for this because we're sitting in the break and he's asking how much Joey Chestnut's worth and saying if I'd have known how much money these guys made, I'd have just trained for this a long time ago. He got Steph Curry syndrome where he thinks because a lot of these eaters look like him that it's just as simple as putting in the work and man hours and nothing else goes into this.
Okay, so I'm just going to go straight humble brag here. Like I toured the world, I won a Grammy, and now I'm Emmy nominated, sitting in a microphone talking about sports. When I want to do something, son, I do it. All right,
you're sitting next to me doing it. You're not doing it at that high level.
Wow. When I want to do something, I do it.
Wow.
That went from 0 to 60. I'm not proud.
I lost in a national championship and got cut in 3 training camps, all right? So when I do something, I'm usually shown the door quickly.
Exactly. Oh, it's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm not proud of that. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. A little bit. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic Jr. So let's go back to a conversation we were having earlier because I think it's really interesting with both of your sort of experiences playing. Cassius Marsh, who now plays for the 49ers, he was cut by the Patriots last season. The Patriots had originally traded a 5th and 7th round draft pick to acquire him from Seattle last year. He goes there. It's not a good fit for him. He hates it. He doesn't feel like it's any fun. He feels like it's being misused. He ends up getting cut, goes to the 49ers, and now he's speaking out. And his quote is, "They don't have fun there. There's nothing fun about it. There's nothing happy about it. I didn't enjoy any of my time there." You know what I'm saying? It made me, for the first time in my life, think about not playing football because I hated it that much. And it created an interesting conversation for you guys because so much of what you were talking about was how it's a job.
Yes.
It's work. So what's the motivating factor for most guys playing in the league today? Is it as simple as I just want to win a Super Bowl, or is it, man, I want to enjoy going to work and hopefully win in the process?
I want to make some money. I think the motivating factor for a lot of guys, it's a cash grab, man.
A lot of guys, get to the pro level because you love doing what you do, but then there's a nice pot at the end of the rainbow as well to get paid for it. But as far as certainly a lot of Patriot fans jumped all over Marsh. And listen, Marsh is just expressing, now part of it is he felt he was played out of position as a coverage linebacker, not a rusher, and that can just kind of feed on itself and really put you in a bad way. But for those that sit there and say, wait a minute, sports is fun, you guys are playing a game, you have to understand at the pro level, it's also your job. Even in part of college, it seems like a job as well for the amount of time you put into it. So this whole thing of it's got to be fun all the time. And going back to what Lane Johnson said, I'd rather win one having fun than 5 and not. I don't think anybody buys into that one. Give me 5 rings. And plus, everybody's different. You know, where Marsh had a bad time, others don't have as bad a time. Of the 53 guys there, you have 53 different experiences of what you're going through. And you know what, gang? It's not all fun. It's not all, singing Kumbaya. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat, a lot of bleeding, a lot of puking, a lot of getting yelled at, a lot of feeling like garbage for an end result of hopefully from a team spot, a championship, and from an individual spot, maybe some great recognition.
You know what I don't want to hear is any of the Patriot fans jumping all over this guy, because guess whose life you're not living and guess what building you're not inside.
Exactly
it's
right.
easy to see the success on the outside and say, this guy's an idiot. Why wouldn't you want to be around all this? Why wouldn't you want to be around guaranteed rings? You get to go to work with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. None of that can possibly be hard, but yet you see your best players on that team even coming out and saying, I don't like this very much. I've been around here long enough to know this isn't really doing it for me anymore. So for a guy further down the list in an organization that already cuts and turns over bodies at that level like it's going out of style, you can absolutely understand this sentiment. Now, I don't think he said anywhere in this that I don't think this is a winning formula.
Right.
I don't think he ever said it didn't produce results.
Right.
He just said he didn't enjoy it, which, you know what, is a perfectly realistic, understandable outcome given what you've heard from plenty of people who have either played under Bill Belichick in other places or have played in New England in that organization.
There has to be some level where this gets legs at some point because we've heard it from multiple people now. And Tom Brady seems to be sort of the main poster child we all want to assign this to, that, hey, it's just reports are he's not having fun. He doesn't seem to necessarily love it, but he's winning. And so I think that's the hardest part, like trying to figure out what defines the end goal is such a difficult piece of this, because the end goal, if you, Mike, if you were playing today, and, so you flash forwards, you find your legs and somebody comes, 2 teams come in and they decide they want to sign you. You can go to the Patriots and have a viable shot at a Super Bowl, or you can go to, a lesser team and go out and have yourself a good time.
All depends on where I am in my career. I've said this 1,000 times. Am I going to play there? Is there a money difference there? Where are the teams located? What effect does it have on my family? Am I young? Am I older? There's a lot of things that go into it, that situation. So it's like before I retired, I had a workout with the 49ers in 1994. I wasn't with a team to start that season. I worked out with them in week 12. And they were talking about signing me, and they had another position get hurt that next week, so I didn't get signed. That was 1994. That was week 12. If they would have signed me in week 13, they went on to win a Super Bowl that year. I wasn't going to be a big part of it. So while I would have enjoyed the experience of going to the Super Bowl, it's not like I'd have flashed that ring everywhere saying, oh my God, as opposed to when I was at my time in Philadelphia, where I'd have been, standing up on everything, just having a ball with a beer, about that. So it's different situations for people, I think.
It is. I think of Chris Long as the most recent example.
Right.
When he went to New England, he had already made a bunch of money. He had been a top overall pick. He wanted to win a championship. It wasn't a great fit. It wasn't the most money he was going to get, but it made sense for him. But you read this quote from Cassius. It says, they don't have fun there. There's nothing fun about it. There's nothing happy about it. I didn't enjoy any of my time there. You know what I'm saying? It made me, for the first time in my life, think about not playing football because I hated it that much. And you hear this sentiment about the styles of coaching of Bill Belichick, of Nick Saban, and it resonated for me because Harry Hiestand was my offensive line coach, as the O-line coach, the Bear. That's a hard man to play for while you're under him. He is one of the most influential people I've ever had around in my life. He is my favorite football coach I ever played for. I love that man on the back end. But that season under him was hell. Going into work every day was not always a great time. You didn't always feel great walking into that room because you're going to be held accountable in a way that most human beings aren't comfortable with. Most people going into their job are not held accountable to the level that you would be, because no mistake that you make is excusable, because there is that standard amongst these guys, and that's not for everyone. You can get results other ways, but the way these guys get them isn't a style that's cut out for most.
Marsh said, and you just read it, but that last line, it made me for the first time in my life think about not playing football because I hated it so much. Hey, Marsh, join the club. Every one of us went through that. Went through 9 years in the NFL every year thinking, I don't want to go do this again. You go through periods like this. And Cassius Marsh, I'm not ripping him at all. Not one bit in this. And those fans that are, I stick it, man. Keep it to yourself because you have no idea what this guy's going through because there are plenty of guys who have a tough time with it, and sometimes the grass is greener and sometimes it's not.
There's a piece of the fan logic in general that's like, this is sort of where we are in the world. Everybody wants to look at somebody else's job and apply why that job must be fun or that job must be easy or they've got it made over there. Like if you work for a company, you're like, oh, I just want to own my own business. And if you own your own business, then you're like, oh God, I wish I only had to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. And like, it's so easy to apply whatever we think somebody's reality should be to how we think they should react.
Every night on the road, great with you when you were touring?
No, and I've said this forever. At the end of every show, I always text Sonny and said, money earned, because that's what it was. It was money earned. There's no adrenaline for me. There was no kick. There was no rush. There was no, oh my God, I played a concert. There was, make your money, go sit on the bus, watch Family Guy, and just get to the next city. It's a grind. It's a daily grind. And so it doesn't mean I'm not appreciative for what I did, but there's not some big adrenaline kick. And I think that's where we are with guys. We want to look at it as fans. You want to look at it and say, hey, Cassius Marsh should be thankful for the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. But the fact is, everybody's different and everybody reacts differently. So it's a small but interesting piece. Yeah. That the Patriots are going to sort of dig their heels in, and players are going to have to decide as a whole. Some of them are always going to want to play there because the fact is they have the chance to win. And you know
exactly how it's going to be when you go there under Bill Belichick.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up next, we'll ask one of the best basketball players of all time and my favorite basketball player growing up if reaching the NBA Finals was as good as a title for LeBron.
Decking, railing, lighting, furniture, fencing, framing. At Trex, we make the most in outdoor living because you deserve to get more from your life outdoors. So why not start bringing your ideas to life now with the brand that's engineering what's next? To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, or to find a local retailer or a certified Trex Pro deck builder near you, visit Trex.com. That's Trex.com.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz, in for Trey, sitting next to Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. And all of this conversation about last night's Game 7, about the legacy of LeBron, about the Cavs, for all the conversation we can have, I figured that the only way we can make the conversation better is to get somebody, I don't know, that's a Hall of Fame
player. Legend as well?
A legend to come in with us. So
it ain't any of us.
We will go to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line where we are joined by absolutely my favorite basketball player as a kid growing up, Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen. Scottie, thanks for the time this morning. When you look back at the Warriors last night, what is it about the third quarter specifically that makes them so dominant?
Well, I think they just come out and really establish themselves from a defensive standpoint. We all know they're a great offensive team, but they're very dedicated on the defensive end of the basketball court, and I think that's where they really can just sort of focus in on coming out and being more aggressive defensively. And, you know, we know Golden State, they're going to shoot the ball well. No matter who they're shooting against, they're probably going to outshoot them based on the type of shooters that they have on their team. So, you know, they're a very good defensive team. I know a lot of times we get caught up, you know, and mesmerized by what they do from an offensive standpoint. But Golden State bread and butter is really how well they play on the defensive end, which is really anchored by, you know, Draymond Green.
So let's dig a little deeper into that one in a locker room, Scottie, and take people where they can't go. Golden State outscored the Rockets by 68 in the third quarter this series and 130 points of everybody else in this postseason. And everybody knows what's coming out of them in the third quarter. So what's going on in the locker room, not from Golden State side, but from the opposing team side when you're trying to deal with that?
Well, you have to take care of the basketball, and you have to limit their offensive rebounds or second shot opportunities. I felt like last night they really just didn't control Golden State in terms of getting what I call the 50-50 ball, the offensive rebounds, the loose balls. I felt like Golden State got to all those balls, which was really turned out to be the difference in the game, especially in the third quarter when they gave them numerous amount of opportunities to score in one possession. So you have to limit your turnovers, especially in the playoff games. Every possession is important. And as you know, there's no tomorrow. So the adjustment standpoint that you can make from game to game becomes smaller and smaller as you play through these games. So for Houston, last night was one of those games where you had to play your best. So you're without CP3. You needed other guys to step up, but more importantly, you needed to handle the basketball.
Talking to Scottie Pippen, basketball Hall of Famer on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Scottie, you played on a team with multiple Hall of Famers, very similar to what we're seeing with this Golden State team now. What's the confidence level like when you can look around and understand, all right, I'm not on an island here. I've got some all-time greats around here with me. What kind of confidence does that give you going into these big stages?
Well, it's great. It's superior confidence. I mean, it's something that you can't really explain. You have to be in the moment. But, when I look back at my career, playing alongside Tony Kukoc, playing alongside Dennis Rodman, playing alongside Michael Jordan, those guys were great players. And, they're going to be Hall of Famers, including Tony. We know Dennis and Michael already are. But when you got guys that know that, they can carry a team as individual, and when you group all that together, as you see a team like Golden State with Clay, with Steph, with KD, with Draymond, that's a solid group. And when you can get 4 to 5 solid guys out there on the court that you can depend on and rely on, it makes everybody's job easier because you all rely on each other. The communication is there, and you want to help each other because you see it as success for the team, not just for you as an individual.
So, Scottie, walk me through the other side of it from last night. When your team goes as cold as Houston did, missing 27 straight threes, what do you do to try and reverse the momentum?
I mean, that's sort of Mike D'Antonio's coaching style. I mean, anyone else, they're going to tell their team, take the ball to the basket, stop shooting so many threes. But, we all know that that's Mike D'Antonio's style of play. That's what he encourages guys to do, is to shoot the three ball. And, they went through the whole season living and dying by that shot, whether they're making them or not. To me, in the playoff, you got to be willing to make adjustments. And I didn't think Houston Rockets made any adjustments. They wanted to continue with their sort of streak of shooting threes and making numerous of them. And you can't do that against a team like Golden State. First of all, they're going to be they're a better shooting team than you because they got better shooters. But secondly, they're a better defensive team than what you play against throughout these playoff series. So now you're really putting your backs against the wall because you're not willing to make an adjustment for the best team that's going to challenge you at the highest level. And you see what the results turn out to be.
All right, Scottie, a question that's going to be asked all day by everybody to everybody is how different would this game have been, if at all, if Chris Paul played?
Well, I feel like it would have been a lot different, but, that's been part of our league. It's been a part of professional sport that, you can't say what if. It didn't go down that way. We would have loved seeing, everybody healthy. I would have loved seeing Iguodala play, so I just can't say CP3 because if they get Iguodala, then, he's going to sort of help them out as much as CP3 can help, the Rockets out. But, it's one of those situations where things like that, we've seen it happen numerous amount of times where a player get hurt. Look at LeBron James. Look at what happened to him. I mean, he got guys out on the court he's been playing with for, 15 weeks? And now he done taken them to the final. And he ain't complaining. He ain't got Kevin Love. They traded Kyrie on him, and he didn't want that trade to go down. So, we can't say, what if LeBron had Kyrie now? How would that team be? We can't say. It is what it is.
Always amazing stuff. You can follow him on Twitter at Scottie Pippen. Scottie, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on with us this morning, man.
Thanks, Scottie.
Okay, guys, I appreciate you. Thanks.
I go there as well. I know it's a conversation piece of how would it have been different. But I mean, you know this, Mike. As a player, you don't have time. You don't have time to think about it.
No.
Now the Rockets will have a lot of time to think about it in the offseason. You do the old what if game, but. You know, when you're playing the game, you just move on. Next man up, you keep going.
It is a much harder adjustment. It's like getting injured. Getting injured closer to this, having to adjust one game later after a star player gets injured, as opposed to having the whole season to figure out what this Cavaliers team looks like without Kyrie, having the whole season to figure out what the Celtics look like without Gordon Hayward or Kyrie Irving before the playoff. It's a lot different adjustment for you mechanically for this team than having him ripped out before the most important game of the season.
I think the most important thing we just learned is that Scottie Pippen and I are now besties, right? Like that's how it works.
I thought that as well. I could tell a little pep in his voice.
Yeah, like I felt it. I felt
and
like
that Scottie Pippen was the actual voice for the Laurel Yanny debate.
Yeah.
Bologna, a lunch meat, a bologna sandwich. Bologna, nonsensical talk, a bunch of bologna. So there's two definitions.
My bologna has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My bologna has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day, and if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Sorry, I just stepped all over you, Mike.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
did.
Learn the job.
Well, I was so enamored with Oscar Mayer.
Bragging about your career on the road.
Yeah.
You're Emmy nominated. You're hosting all these radio shows.
Hey, you just try and read one of these right today. That's your goal.
Why don't you get out of the way of SportsCenter? Maybe you've heard of it. It's one of our premier franchises around here.
Do you know who sponsored this one?
Step off. It's DXL. This is big boy talk. Big boy talk over at DXL. Get your little boy self out of here. SportsCenter brought to you by DXL. Hey, guys, you're built like a big boy. Power forward, offensive lineman, reformed, very sexy tight end Mike now. Finding clothes that fit, it's never been easy until DXL. DXL was built just for big boys, XL guys with over 100 brands and an unrivaled fit starting at size XL. Get to your nearby DXL store. Visit destinationxl.com. Built to fit, built XL, DXL. Now you can have it back,
You
Tommy.
guys are like children. I mean,
he's the size of a child, and he sounds like one.
I am seriously the parent in here.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to be the responsible one.
I mean, you actually are. You're the only parent in
That
here.
is
You're
true.
old enough. You are quite literally old enough to be my dad. Fitz is a vampire, so he's a little more comparable. But
You're welcome. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Mike Golic Jr. And as much sass as Junior's been giving me throughout the course of the day, the next time he's walking through the halls and not looking, I might just Tom Wilson him. Just like
there
from
you
behind
go.
When he doesn't see it coming.
Late hit.
Little late hit.
Difference is I'll drop the gloves with you.
Oh, that's probably fair. I don't want to get into that. If you guys missed it in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, it was a pretty spectacular moment. I shouldn't say spectacular.
Spectacular moment?
It was not in the way of a good moment.
Right. No, it was an eye-opening moment. That's the word I was looking for. It was a pretty eye-opening moment when you saw what appears to be a late hit. The league's going to review it, but this is what it sounded like on Fox Sports 98.9.
Puck comes out in front. Save Holtby. They thought it went in. Puck is back out to the neutral zone. Play is stopped because Marchessault went down in the neutral zone. McNabb then goes after the Capital.
Yeah, a very late hit. A very, very late hit from Tom Wilson, who has been a cheap shot artist. Already got 3 games in this playoffs. He hits Marchessault late and from behind.
Now, in fairness, I'm not sure it's a very, very late hit. The league's going to review it. In the moment, it actually initially wasn't called a penalty.
No.
The refs had to huddle up, and then they decided. But what's really key here and was stunning to me was the NHL coming out, having a trainer come out and pull Marchessault out of the game. He had to go to the dark room and go immediately for concussion testing. And when you were talking about a game that at that point in the third period was up for grabs, and you're taking arguably the second most valuable player for the Golden Knights off the ice.
Right.
It could have been a series-changing moment.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I said 4-4. I'm not positive it was 4-4 when it was 4-4. But you know, this is where we are, and I don't have a problem with that. As long if it's like in the NFL now, it's an independent spotter. If you notice something, you can pull a player off. I get it. I mean, it's like anything else. You advance in knowledge of things, and we're getting more and more knowledge of head injuries. So you're going to, we need to be more cognizant of that and say, okay, save the player from himself if he wants to continue with. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't want to come off the field. You need to take them off.
Well, but let me ask you this. If they deem it to be a dirty hit and it puts him into concussion protocol at the end of a close game, why not make him sit out until the guy comes back from
concussion? You're saying the guy who gave the hit. I've never been a fan of that.
You've got a system of punishment for this. You've got penalties. In football, if you knock a guy out of the game, you get a 15-yarder and you're assessed there.
Right.
In basketball, if there's a penalty, you're assessed, shots, you get the ball, whatever it is. In hockey, you get time on the bench. I understand there were offsetting penalties here, but you've got the system in place to deal with these things.
But at the same time, in hockey, when you're going into concussion protocol, you're now skating a man short. They don't have the roster depth the way the NFL does, where you can just pop a backup wide receiver in. You're now going to skate a skater short. Somebody's going to have to take longer shifts for the duration. That changes the whole way that the game's played.
That's how it works in every sport. You go to game day in the NFL with 46 guys. You go down a guy, all of a sudden you've got another starter who's got to play special teams.
Exactly.
You've got someone going into in basketball. Kevin Love goes out the other night. That adds minutes and changes the rotation for people. Hockey's not special.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've never been in favor of, if a guy is more hurt from a hit, that you penalize the hitter longer. I've never agreed with that. Now, what I do agree with, if they want to nail Tom Wilson because of his history, I'm all for that. That's you've earned that that bad reputation of hit. So if it was a first timer, maybe nothing would happen to him. And I don't know if anything. You think anything's going to happen to Tom Wilson? Either one of you guys think he's going to game 2 coming up? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen before game 2. I would imagine.
I think that's tough because as bad as the hit looks in slow motion, in live time, you do have to sort of look at it real time and say, okay, how bad was it? How late is it?
But with his history, you got to add that in.
Right.
Because it was a first timer. I'm with you. No way anything happens. But it's Tom Wilson, who has been suspended for 3 games in this postseason. Does he miss it? I don't think he does.
I think they'll give him a game. I think you've seen statements in the fact that they're just addressing that on these big stages. Took a guy off the ice in the Stanley Cup Final. Took Kevin Love off the court in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. We see it in the NFL all the time. They're taking this stuff more seriously. When you have a chance to set a tone, you usually do.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting piece for hockey, too, because all eyes are on sort of the head issue is something that hasn't been talked as much about. The concussion issue has not been talked as much about, but it is currently part of what's evolving in the NHL culture. So they're going to have to come out and make some sort of a statement on where they stand. And Mike, you said it earlier. If this was football and that same hit happened, oh my God, people are just clamoring today about the sport's dying.
They'd be asking him, the perpetrator, to be arrested. Tom Wilson would already be in custody.
Yeah, and in all reality, as I said, we're learning more about the head injuries. We have to be smarter about how we're dealing with them. And by smarter, I mean saving players from themselves. Because no matter how advanced we get, players are still going to want to hide it if they can, play with it if they can. That's why you have to save them basically from themselves.
Yeah, and I will say Marchessault looked stunned when they were taking him off the ice, and he was angry about it. But I'll always look at that and say if it's for the best of his head and it's best for his future health, that's probably for the best for him and for the best of the sport.
And league PR.
Absolutely, which always plays into it. So Dan Le Batard's show coming up next with Stu Gotts on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. I don't know how their Mickey Mouse impersonation will be, but it won't be as good as what I just did.
You two children, go to your room.